So to me, like favorable growth prospects, understanding the business is required and understanding why it has favorable growth prospects. But to me, that would be one example of kind of being on that value chain somewhere and just having a really great niche and having room to grow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great example. You know, a company like Mastercard really kind of jumps out to me. I've talked about Visa ad nauseum, but Mastercard definitely would kind of fly under that umbrella for me because it has a great business and it has a great moat, and it does a great job of returning capital to shareholders and continues to grow. And it definitely does not, its success does not depend on a superstar manager. It doesn't need Elon Musk to drive it to success. It can kind of function on its own. And because it earns such great returns, there's always somebody coming for it. So, you know, competition is kind of I think can be a two-edged sword. Number one, it can be great because it can drive you to be better and try to improve and keep growing because you don't want somebody to pass you on the racetrack. So there's that. And then the other part of it though is that it can be, you know, it could be a grind. And if you're not careful and you don't have people that are diligent and staying on top of their business, they can get lapped. They can get passed. And then once you get past, I think it's really, really hard and probably nigh impossible to try to recover that. I'm, you know, in a snapshot, I'm failing to think of a situation where a company has been passed on their moat and they've been able to get it back. I'm sure there's examples. I just can't think of them. And so to me, that's why having management stay on top of the business and continue to invest and not sit on their laurels and try to continue to improve. To me, that's one of the things that makes a company like Mastercard such a great business, is because I think it answers all those questions.
Yeah. I'm struggling to think of one too. It's very hard for, like, if you hear of companies that make a comeback, a lot of times, you know, that could be from like a company pivoting or something.
Right.
Like I'm thinking of Microsoft and how, you know, the cloud really saved them. It's not often you hear that. For sure.
No, for sure not. So we're talking about great businesses. What are some maybe good businesses that are maybe not as awesome as somebody like a home builder or a MasterCard, but still is a decent potential investment?
I think health insurance stocks look interesting right now. The market hasn't thought so. They've been kind of left behind, if not some of them beaten up. But for the most part, they seem to be growing their profits quite well. I mean, I know there's some attrition from some of the Medicare stuff and some of the memberships coming down for some of these. But from a profitability standpoint, it looks pretty nice. I guess the question is maybe the perception there is that maybe the moat's not as strong as people thought 3-4 years ago. So maybe it's just a good and not a great business, but definitely not performing like either at the moment.
Right. Yeah. You know, to me, I think it's a space that I am interested in, have never really been able to find ideas or find the right idea, and that's the utility space. I think, you know, those are necessary businesses. They're monopolies where they operate, but because they're so controlled by regulation, understandably and justifiably so, they have a cap on what they can do. But it doesn't mean they can't be great investments, and they can earn great returns, including their dividends and buybacks. And so it's an area that I've always wanted to try to invest. I've just struggled to find a company that would be a good fit for what I'm trying to do. Do they rise to the level of a Microsoft or an Apple or a Costco? No, but it doesn't mean they couldn't have a place in my portfolio or somebody's portfolio.
Yeah, the return on invested capital on those
is limited.
Cautious, yeah.
Yeah. Is
It's an expensive business.
yes, very expensive. Capital intensive would not even begin to cover it.
Yeah. I would also throw in like the real estate investment trusts.
Mm,
I mean, they have a lot of them have some great real estate, but to differentiate one plot of commercial land versus another, it's a tough business to differentiate yourself in.
mhm.
Not to say that it can't happen, and not to say they're not good investments or good businesses, but yeah, without that enduring moat and the nature of the constant competition, makes it hard to consistently outperform and be like, oh, that's a number one, right?
Right.
So that's one that I would also throw out there.
Yeah. So here are two companies that have been around for a long time. You could say they're strong businesses, but I'm not sure what people would think about their returns if they invested in them. And that would be Johnson & Johnson and Coca-Cola. Like, do you think they fall into the good or would they fall into the great?
I think they used to be great.
Yeah.
The tough thing I have about those two in particular is historical revenue growth hasn't been impressive.
Mm-mm.
So not to say that, in the future they don't improve that, but just in the last 5 years or so, it hasn't been the greatest revenue story.
Mhm.
And so that makes it hard. Even if you're a great business, if you don't have
Right.
the revenue growth, it's really hard to get that kind of market beating growth that you would want.